Hi, I'm George, TSG's HPI product manager. In this short demo, I'm going to compare the administration modules for D2 and HPI. So here I'm going to start in D2, and to kind of compare apples to apples, I'm going to use this policy document search form as an example to modify in the admin, just because HPI has a somewhat similar search form. So in D2 here, I've configured up this policy document search, and I can put in my policy number and a policy year and run the search, and then it'll go out and find policy documents that match this search criteria. So let me head over to the D2 admin, and just a quick overview. D2 has this concept of applications and contexts, and then there's a matrix of the different configurations. So for example, let's just use the menu as an example, or these properties pages. You can put check marks in the different context boxes in this matrix to let D2 know where, for example, this document search configuration is available. So similar to in HPI when we talk about tracks, that's kind of how D2 works. For this example, we're going to head over to the query form. And one thing I mentioned in the blog post is that sometimes in D2, you have to have very intimate knowledge of the underlying Documentum repository. And this is one example here. For this policy document search, I'm tying it to a property page, which is what we're going to look at a little bit later. But I'm also writing the DQL here, so I need to know what this DQL is. And if I do it sort of in a inconvenient way, that can impact how the users work with the system. So in this example here, I have this looking for policy documents where the policy number matches and the policy year matches. So I've kind of made a decision here that affects the usability. So in this case, if I say 121212 for the policy number and run the query, I'm actually not going to get any results back because of that and. But if I switch this to an or and save my config, head back over to D2 and just run a quick refresh. Now, when I put in just the policy number, it's going to run and bring back the results I expect. Similarly, because I used an equal sign there, if I just entered part of the number, it wouldn't find the results. And of course, I could change this to a like and use the percent signs and all that good stuff to get it to work. I just have to, know to do that in the admin. But as the example here, I'm just going to go to this policy search properties property page. So back in the go to, I'm just going to go to properties pages and look at the policy search properties. And now this gives me the ability to add additional form fields here. So I can use these controls here to add to the form. And one thing I wanted to point out that was kind of interesting is date boxes work fairly well when you're looking at just a single date. So, let's say I wanted to use our modified date. Um, that's great, but what's going to happen here is I'll just do this real quick. What's going to happen here is that this is going to give me a date control, but it's only going to allow me to select one date. It's kind of difficult to set up a date range search within D2. And in that case, what you'd have to do is create some ad hoc properties and tell it not to link to a property behind the scenes, and then do some, magic in your backend configuration to check the two dates in the range against a single date property. But that's a little bit more complex for what we're doing here. So in this case, I'm just going to remove that, and I'm going to add a new text field, just searching on title. So here, I'm just going to say I want to look for the title. And I could put in an English label for all that good internationalization stuff. But for now, I'll just save that and head over here. And my title field will appear here. But this isn't the whole story, because not just all I've done here is I've added the title field. I haven't actually tied it to the query. So I have to remember to come back to the matrix over here, or actually I could just go to the go to, the query form, and now I'm going to add to this. So I would say or title equals, and then there's this special syntax you have to use with the $ value, and then in parentheses, the name of the field. So now after I save, when I actually do the search, it will search on the title that I entered. So now I'm going to head over to HPI and show sort of a similar thing. So just to show the search how it is now, I'm going to head over to the search, and in the insurance track, I'm going to look for underwriting documents. And I have a search form here. And in HPI search form, there's a concept of primary and secondary attributes. So I have a certain number of attributes as primary, and any secondary attributes show below this more fields, less fields button here. So I'm just going to do a search for 1, 2, and it's going to run a contain search against the policy number and pull back the docs that have a policy number that contains 1, 2. So let's head over to the admin real quick here. HPI's administration module is separated into these different tabs here. And the application config are for more overall application things. And we also have the object type config where we can configure the types that are exposed to HPI. And we also have this concept of tracks. So similar to the context in D2, HPI kind of does the same thing. We just call it a track. So inside the insurance track, we say which search config to use, which stage config, and then what types in the repository are exposed to this track. So, and I can just drag and drop other types if I want to start working with them. So I'm going to head over to the search config for insurance in this example. And we can see one of the configurations here is the form to display. So this is the form that will be used when the user goes to the search in the insurance track. So now I'm going to head over to that form, the search insurance form, to actually make my update. So I will head to search insurance. And under underwriting document, let's do a few things. Let's add the title like we did for in the D2 example. So we'll just add it to the form. We're going to say it's a text box, no special options or anything like that. And we talked a little bit about date ranges in D2. Let's take this modified date and move it up here as a primary attribute, just so it's easier to see. And let's make it a what we call a proximity date box. And I'll leave this one as a normal date box so we can see the difference. So now I'm going to save my configuration and come back to search. And we'll be able to see those changes right away. So now I can search on the title. And the proximity date works where all the searches are in proximity to today. So I can say anything modified in the past, say 3 days, weeks, or months, and run that search. If you don't use a proximity date, we just assume you're looking for a range in a search form. So we say the created, and then you can do from a certain date to a certain date or between 2 dates. Well, that's it for this demo. Thanks for watching. For more information, check out our website and blog at tsgrp.com.